Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the story of two incredible leaders who built one of India's mightiest empires, the Delhi Sultanate. The crazy part? They did it with completely opposite playbooks. So that's the big question we're tackling. How do you actually build an empire from the ground up? Do you carefully lay out a blueprint, piece by piece? Or do you just smash your way through with a battering ram? We're going to explore this by looking at two rulers who had very, very different answers. So you've got two major players here. In one corner, there's Iltutmish, the pragmatic architect, the guy who really consolidated the Sultanate. And in the other corner, you have Alauddin Khalji, the ambitious warlord, the man who blew the doors off the empire and expanded it to its absolute peak. Two leaders, two clashing visions for the very same throne. All right, first up, Iltutmish. Now, he wasn't the very first sultan, but when he took power back in 1211, he's the one everyone really points to as the guy who turned the Delhi Sultanate into a real, stable, functioning state. He was the true founder. So, one of the first things he does is shift the capital from Lahore to Delhi, which was a huge statement. It cemented Delhi as the heart of power. But his whole philosophy was even more important. He wasn't interested in grabbing more and more land. His entire reign was about consolidation and contentment. It was all about fixing the problems at home and building a kingdom that was made to last. And to run this new state, he didn't just rule by his gut. No, this was a leader who believed in getting advice. He created this incredible group called the Chalgani, or the 40. Think of it like a modern-day cabinet, a brain trust of 40 powerful ministers who helped him make all the big decisions. This was about building an institution, about ruling by council, not just by decree. Okay, so you've got a new state, but how do you pay for a loyal army to protect it? Well, his solution was brilliant. The ikta system. Instead of trying to find massive amounts of cash, he granted his officers the right to collect revenue from a piece of land, an ikta. This was genius. It solved the payment problem, it helped manage the land, and it made sure he had loyal military muscle spread all across his kingdom. And look, all this focus on internal stability doesn't mean he was weak. Far from it. This guy was a formidable defender of his realm. In fact, his greatest test and his greatest achievement was when he managed to stop the unstoppable Mongol storm under Genghis Khan from invading India. An absolutely incredible feat that very few rulers at the time could pull off. All right, now let's fast forward almost a century. In 1296, a completely different kind of ruler takes the throne. Talk about a change in management. Alauddin Khalji came to power by murdering his own uncle and father-in-law. And yeah, that single act of ruthless ambition, it pretty much set the tone for his entire reign. So if Iltutmish was all about looking inward, Khalji was the exact opposite. His eyes were always on the horizon. His rule was just this whirlwind of conquest. Just look at this timeline. It was campaign after campaign after campaign, smashing through kingdoms and pushing the borders of the Sultanate further and further than ever before. His whole approach was so geared towards extraction that many historians have said he was more of a plunderer than a sultan. It wasn't just about ruling new lands for him. It was about ruthlessly squeezing every last drop of wealth out of them. And famously, this is how he got his hands on the legendary Kohinoor diamond during the sack of Wrangel. So you might be thinking, okay, but he did make reforms, right? And yes, he did. But you have to understand why. His administrative genius was all pointed in one direction, fueling his war machine. He put in strict price controls and built these heavily regulated markets, not for the good of the people, but to make sure his massive army could be fed and supplied as cheaply as possible. It was a command economy built for conquest. All right, so we've met our two titans, the architect and the warlord. Let's put their leadership styles side by side, a real head-to-head showdown, to see just how different they really were. I mean, this table just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at the primary goal, stability versus conquest. Governance, Iltutmish ruled by council with his 40. Khalji ruled by pure central command and fear. And economics, Iltutmish used the ikta system to build loyalty, while Khalji imposed a state-controlled economy to feed his armies. It's night and day. One built the foundation, the other built the fortress on top of it. So what's the big picture here? After looking at these two totally clashing styles, what does it actually tell us about what it takes to forge an empire's legacy? And this is the key takeaway, right here. You could argue that both were absolutely essential.
Iltutmish's patient, steady work of consolidation, building the institutions, securing the borders, making Delhi a stable capital, all of that created the strong foundation that a conqueror like Khalji needed to launch his massive campaigns. Really, one couldn't have existed without the other.
And that's what we're left with, isn't it? This really big question. Who was the greater ruler? The architect who created a state that could last? Or the conqueror who took that state and expanded it to its absolute zenith? Iltutmish's stability made Khalji's power possible, and it really forces us to ask what we truly value most in a leader, the one who builds or the one who conquers.